As I strode toward the elevator, I flung my bow to one side and my quiver to the other. I brushed past the gaping octos who guard the elevators and hit the number 12 button on my fist. The doors slide together and I zip upward. I actually make it back to my floor before the tears start running down my cheeks. I can hear the others calling me from the sitting room, but I fly down the hall into my room, bolt the door, fling myself onto my bed. Then I begin to sob. Now I've done it. Now I've ruined everything. If I stood even a ghost of a chance, it vanished when I sent that arrow flying to the game makers. What will you do to me now with the 8 Avox so I can wait in the future tributes of Panem? What was I thinking shooting at the game makers? Of course I wasn't. I was shooting at the apple because I was so angry at being ignored. But I wasn't trying to kill one of them. If I were, they would be dead. Oh, what does it matter? It's not like I'm going to win the games anyway. Who cares what they will do to me? What really cares me that they will do to my mother and Prim, how my family may suffer now because of my impulsiveness. They will take their few belongings or send my mother to prison and Prim will be the community home or kill them. They wouldn't kill them, would they? Why not? Why do they care? I should have stayed and apologized or laughed like it was a big joke. Then maybe I would have found some leniency, but instead I stalked out of the place in the most disrespectful manner possible. Hamish and Effie are knocking on my door. I shout for them to go away, and eventually they do. It takes at least an hour for me to cry myself out. Then I just lie curled up on bed, stroking the silken seat, watching the sun set over the artificial candy capital. At first, I expect guards to come for me, but as the time passes, it seems unlikely. I calm down. They still need a girl tribute in District 12, don't they? If the game makers want to punish me, they can do it publicly. Wait until I'm in the area and the 6 starving wild animals on me. You can bet they'll make sure I don't have a bow and arrow to defend myself. Before that though, they'll give me a score so low, knowing the right mind will sponsor me. That's what will happen tonight. Since the training isn't open to viewers, the game makers announce a score for each player. It gives the audience a starting place for the betting that will continue through the games. The number, which is between 1 and 12, will be irredeemably bad, and 12 being untannily high, signifying the promise of the tribute. The mark is not a guarantee of which person will win. It's only an indication of the potential a tribute showed in training. Often, because of the variables in the actual arena, high-scoring tributes go down almost immediately, and a few years ago the boy who won the games only received a 3. Still, the scores can help or hurt an individual tribute in terms of sponsorship. It can be hoping my shooting skills might give me a 6 or a 7, but now I'm not particularly powerful. Now I'm sure I'll have the lowest score on the 24. If no one sponsors me, the odds of staying alive decreases to almost 0. When every taps on my door to call me for dinner, I decide I may as well go. The scores will be television tonight. It's not like I can hide what happens forever. I go to the bathroom and wash my face, but it's still red and splotchy. Everybody is waiting at the table, even Cinna, and Portia. I wish the stylist hadn't showed up because for some reason, I don't like the idea of disappointing them. It's as if I've been thrown away for the good work they did on the opening ceremony without a thought. I avoid looking at anyone as I take a tiny spoonful of fish soup. The saltiness reminds me of my tears. The adults begin to chit-chat about the weather forecast, and I let my eyes meet Peeta's. He raises an eyebrows. A question. What happened? I just give my head a small shake. Then, as they're serving the main course, I hear Hamish say, "Okay, enough of small talk. Just how bad were you today?" Peeta jumps in. I don't know that it mattered. By the time I showed up, no one even bothered to look at me. They were singing some kind of drinking song, I thought, so I threw myself around some heavy objects until they told me I could go. That makes me feel a bit better. It's not like Petra attracted game makers, but at least he was provoked too. "And you, sweetheart," says Hamish. Somehow Hamish calling me sweetheart ticks me off even enough that I'm at least able to speak. I shout an error at the game makers. Everyone stops eating. "You what?" The horror in Effie's voice confirms my worst suspicions. I shout an error at them, not exactly at them, in their direction. It's like Peeta said. I was shooting and they were ignoring me, and I just lost my head, so I shot an apple out out of their stupid roast pig's mouth. I said defiantly, and what does they say? Said Sina carefully, nothing, or I don't know. I walked out after that. Without being dismissed? Gasped Effie. I dismissed myself. I said, I remember how I promised Prim that I'll try to win, and I feel like a ton of coal has been dropped on me. Well, that's that, says Hamish. Then he butters a roll. Do you think they'll arrest me? Doubt it. Be a pain to replace you at the stage, says Hamish. What about my family? I say, will they punish them? Don't think so. Wouldn't make such sense. See, they had to reveal what happened to the training center, for it would need to know what you did. But they can't since it's secret, and it'll be a waste of effort, says Hamish. More likely, they'll make your life hell in the arena. Well, they've already promised to do that to us anyway, says Petra. Very true, says Hamish, and I realize the impossible has happened. They have actually cheered me up. Hamish picks up a pork chop with his fingers, which makes Effie frown, and dunks it in his wine. He rips up the hunk of meat and starts to chuckle. What were their faces like? I can't feel the edges of my mouth tilting up. Shocked, terrified, ridiculous, some of them. An image pops into my mind. One man tripped backward into a bowl of punch. Hamish guffaws, and we all start laughing except Effie, although even she is suppressing a smile. Well, it serves them right. It's their job to pay attention to you. And just because you come from District 12 is no excuse to ignore you. Then her eyes darted around as if she's saying something totally outrageous. I'm sorry, but that's what I think, she said, to no one in particular. I'll get a very bad score. Scores only matter if you're very good. No one pays so much attention to the bad or mediocre ones. For all they know, you can be hiding your talents to get low score on purpose. People use that strategy, says Porta. I hope that's how people interpret the 4 I'll probably get, says Petra. If that it's anything less impressive than watching a person pick a heavy ball and throw it in a couple yards. One almost landed on my foot. I grin at him and realize that I'm starving. I cut off a big piece of pork, dunk it in the mashed potatoes, and start eating. It's okay, my family is safe, and they are safe. No really harm has been done. After dinner, we go to the sitting room to watch the scores announced on television. First, they show the order of the tribute, then flash their score below it. The career tributes naturally get an 8 to 10 range. Most other players average 5. Surprisingly, Little Rue comes up with a 7. I don't know what she showed the judges, but she's so tiny it must have been impressive. District 12 comes as last, as usual. Pecha pulls an 8, so at least a couple of game makers have been watching him. I dig my fingernails into my palm as the face comes up, expecting the worst. Then they're flashing a number 11 on the screen. 11. Every trinket lets out a squeal, and everybody's slapping me on the back, cheering and congratulating me. It doesn't seem real. There must be a mistake. How could that happen? I say, Hamish. Guess they liked your temper, he said. They got a show to put on. They need some players with some heat. Candace, the girl who was on fire, says Sina, gives me a hug. Oh, wait, until you see her interview dress. More flames? Of the sort, he says mischievously. PJ and I congratulate each other. Oh, another awkward moment. We've both done well, but what does that mean for the other? I escape to my room as quickly as possible and borrow down the covers. The stress of the day, particularly the crying, has been wearing me out. I drift off, reprieved, relieved, and the number 11 still flashing behind my eyelids. At dawn, I lie in bed for a while, watching the sun come on the beautiful morning. It's Sunday, a day off at home. I wonder if Gail is in the woods yet. Usually we devote all the Sunday to stocking up for the week. Rising early, hunting and gathering, they trading us for the hob. I think of Gail without me. Both of us can hunt alone, but we're better as a pair, particularly if we are trying for big game. But also in the little things. Having a partner lighten the load could even make an arduous task of filling my family's table enjoyable. I've been struggling along on my own for about 6 months when I first ran into Gail in the woods. It was a Saturday in October, the air cool and pungent with dying things. I spent the morning competing with a squirrel for nuts and slightly warmer afternoon wading the shallow ponds harvesting catnip. The only meat I shot was a squirrel that had practically run over my toes in its quest for acorns, but the animals would still be afoot when the snow buried my other food sources. Having strayed farther afield than usual, I was hurrying back home, lugging my burlap sacks, when I came across a dead rabbit. It was hanging by its neck and a thin wire foot above my head. About 15 yards away from the other, I recognized the twitch of snares that my father had used them. When the prey is caught, it's yanked into the air out of reach for the other hungry animals. I've been trying to get a snares all summer with no success, and I could help dropping my sacks and examine this one. My fingers were just on the wire above the rabbit when a voice rang out. "That's dangerous." I jumped past several feet as Gale materialized from behind the tree. He must have been watching me the whole time. He was only 14, but he cleared 6 feet and was good as an adult to me. I've seen him around the seam at school. And another time, he lost his father in the same blast that killed mine. In January, I stood by while he received his Medal of Valor from the Justice Building, another oldest child with no father. I remembered his 2 little brothers clutching his mother, a woman whose swollen belly announced she was just days from giving birth. "What's your name?" he said, coming over and disengaging the rabbit from the snare. He had other 3 hanging from his belt. "Katniss," I say, barely audible. Well, Catnip, stealing punishment for death, or hadn't you heard?" he said. "Katniss," I said louder, "and I wasn't stealing it. I was just wanted to look at your snare. Mine never catch anything." He scowled at me, not convinced. "So where'd you get the squirrel?" "I shot it." I pulled my bow off my shoulder. I was still using the small version my father had made for me, but I'd been practicing with a full-size one when I could. I was hoping that by spring I might be able to bring down some bigger game. Gale's eyes fastened on the bow. "Can I see that?" I handed it over. "Just remember, stealing is punishable for death." That was the first time I ever saw him smile. It transformed it into someone menacing to someone you wish you knew. But it took several months before I returned that smile. We talked hunting then. I told him I might be able to get him a bow if he had something to trade. Not food, I wanted knowledge. I wanted to set my own snares that caught a belt of fat rabbits in one day. He agreed something might be worked out. As the seasons went by, we grudgingly began to share our knowledge, our weapons, our secret places that were thick with wild plum or turkeys. He taught me snares and fishing. I showed him what plants to eat and eventually gave him one of our precious bows. And then one day, without either of us saying it, we became a team, dividing the work and spoils, making sure we were both our families had food. Gale gave us a sense of security I lacked since my father's death. His companionship replaced the long solitary hours in the woods. I became much better hunter when I didn't have to look over my shoulder constantly when someone wasn't watching my back. But he turned into so much more than a hunting partner. He became my confident someone with whom I could share thoughts and I could never voice inside the fence. In exchange, he trusted me with his. Being out in the woods with Gale, sometimes I was actually happy. I call him my friend, but in the last year it seems so casual a word for that Gale is to me. A pang of longing shoots through my chest. If only he was with me right now. But of course, I don't want that. I don't want him in the arena. We'll be dead in a few days. I just miss him. I hate being so alone. Does he miss me? He must. I think of the 11 flashing under my name last night. I know exactly what to say to me. Well, there's some room for improvement there. And then he'll give me a smile and I'll return it without hesitating now. I can't help comparing what I had done with Gale to what I'm pretending to do with Petra. How I never question Gale's motives when I do nothing but doubted the laters. It's not a fair comparison, really. Gale and I were thrown together by mutual need to survive. Petra and I know the other survival means our own death. How could you sidestep that? A freeze knocking on the door reminding me there's another big day ahead. Tomorrow night will be our television interviews. I guess the whole team will have their hands full reading us for that. I get up and take a quick shower, being a bit more careful about the buttons I hit, and head down to the dining room. Petra, Effie, and Henrik are huddled down at the table, talking in hushed voices. That seems odd, but hunger wins over curiosity, and I load my plate with breakfast before I join them. The stew's made with tender chunks of lamb and dried plums today. perfect with a bed of white rice. I shoveled about halfway through the mound when I realized no one's talking. I take a big gulp of orange juice and wipe my mouth. So what's going on? You're coaching on the interviews, right? That's right, says Hamish. You don't have to wait until I'm gone. I'm done. I can't listen and eat at the same time. Well, there's been a change of plans about our current approach. Why is that? I asked. I'm not sure what our current approach is. Trying to appear mediocre in front of the tributes is the last bit of strategy I remember. Peter shrugs. Peter has asked to be coached separately.